The other offering by Oppo here at the event in Singapore has one very distinct and wonderful feature, and in order to see that, you have to put it on its side. Hey, it's Josh Vergara from Android Authority. What's going on, everybody? And this is our first look at the Oppo R5. Yes, what you're looking at here is one of the, if not the thinnest phone available in the market today. The R5 by Oppo has a 4.85mm thickness, which is pretty incredible, and it also allows for a very nice aesthetic that is provided by a metallic alloy that goes all around the phone. Now, as far as the elements on the phone goes, you can see here that the micro USB charging port actually doesn't have a whole lot of room left around it, and then the power button on the right side with the volume rocker, though they do feel quite nice, still have no room around them. You're pretty much just hitting the limits when it comes to what you're able to put on the sides of the phone when you make it this thin. As far as the handling goes, metal is always nice to feel in the hand, but with the thinness of this phone, you would think that with very little real estate on the sides to grip with your fingers, it would slip about very easily. But at 155 grams in its weight, there's actually quite a bit of heft and girth to this phone that will allow it to sit very nicely in the palm, and thus it doesn't move around too much, certainly not as much as you would expect a very thin device like this to do so. After that, the 5.2-inch Super AMOLED display allows for easy handling around the actual screen itself, whether it's from side to side or even to the top. Looking at the screen, it is a 5.2-inch screen, an AMOLED screen actually, that comes in at 1080p resolution and 423 pixels per inch. What you'll notice here in the Color OS that has been updated to KitKat, there are now some darker elements involved, possibly to take better advantage of the AMOLED screen, but nonetheless it does look quite nice, and the update to KitKat does allow it to have a little bit more optimization and certainly better transitions in and out of the different elements, and Color OS, despite looking essentially the same as it did in previous iterations, is powered quite well and is very smooth. Especially with the Snapdragon 615, that is an octa-core construction underneath the surface that brings 2.1 gigahertz, backed by 2 gigabytes of RAM and 16 gigabytes of onboard storage with no expansion available. Now, the battery underneath is a 2000 milliamp hour battery, but the VOOC fast charging is available, and that actual charger has been shrunken down, so you're not going to get the huge break like you did with the Oppo Find 7. Nonetheless, I really do like the screen here with the AMOLED construction that does work quite well outside, as you can see me looking at it right here going through Color OS. As we move into the camera, there is a little bit of a concern here because the thinness of the phone means that the camera does have to protrude out a little bit. If you're the kind of person that likes to slide your phone around all the time, it's possible that the optics might get scratched or even damaged. But nonetheless, if you're careful with that, we can move on into the actual interface itself, and it looks very similar to previous iterations of the Oppo flagship system, and it has a lot of options underneath. As far as the specs go, this camera is a 13 megapixel Sony Exmor IMX214 sensor, and the front-facing camera is a 5 megapixel shooter with an 80-degree wide angle sensor. An f2.0 aperture is available for both of these cameras, so you should be able to get quite a few good shots on the rear camera as well as self-portraits up front. You will have all of the different options available underneath, including all of these modes that you're seeing right here as I slide out the small menu, and there will be more modes available here as developers will be able to create even more experiences in order to make the smartphone photography experience even more robust. As far as the camera quality goes, we do expect it to be quite nice. Sony Exmor sensors do tend to do a good job, and we have seen some nice pictures from previous iterations of Oppo's flagships like the Find 7. And once I get my review unit, I will see if this camera is actually up to snuff when it compared to plenty of the other, let's say, flagship devices out in the market today. On the hardware side of things, there aren't really any extra bells and whistles that are available, and actually the thinness is its main claim to fame, which is a great and beautiful feature of this device, but it does pose one particular problem: the fact that there's no headphone jack on the sides. You probably noticed in the beginning clip of this video that there wasn't one. There's just no space to have it there, and what will happen instead is you'll get an adapter in the package that you can connect into the micro USB port, and then you can connect your headphones. It might be a problem for plenty of users out there, but if you do listen to music and audio from your phones via Bluetooth already anyway, then that might be your workaround. But for plenty of users out there, I could see where this might be a bit of an issue. You might be a little bit worried about heating when it comes to a phone so packed in like this, but Oppo says that a cool element inside of the device will allow it to have a phase shifting material that changes when heat is generated, and thus the phone should be cooler as a result. It's something that we're going to have to really test in our daily usage when I get my hands on a review unit, and I'll let you know what happens to this phone when I use it, especially for long periods of time. To me, what's so interesting about the R5 is that it kind of proves a particular point, that a very specific design choice can change the way you feel about a device. Underneath the surface, we have all of the fixings for a very solid device, maybe mid to upper mid-range, and essentially we have a very good experience underneath that you could find in a lot of other devices. But then, once you pack it into a very slim 4.85mm profile and have a very nice metallic alloy aesthetic as you see here, it really makes the entire package even more attractive than you would expect. And that's exactly what the R5 has done, and thus it is one of the more exciting releases that we've seen, especially in this latter half of 2014. So keep it tuned to Android Authority for even more coverage of the R5 and more coverage from us here at the Oppo event in Singapore. Don't forget to check back here for our full review of the R5 once we get our hands on a review unit.